Well, hello and welcome back to the Opinioneers episode 2. And we're here, I have in brackets on my notes very loosely, to discuss innovation as a business strategy and the good, the bad and the ugly. And today we're definitely going for the bad and the ugly. But we're here because we have opinions. I'm Derek Cheshire, Chameleonomist. I nearly didn't get that right. Innovationist, visiting professor, speaker, author and radio presenter. And my very good-looking presenter is Stuart Webb Strategist, fractional chief operating officer, scientific value builder, and all-round business genius. So he tells me. And if you are watching and you have any strong opinions or questions, please put them in the comments, and we'll see them, and we'll see if we can answer them or use them to inform our discussion. So, Stuart, this is where we put you on the spot.
Yep.
What are we going to talk about today?
So today, Derek, I want to talk about enshittification. Now, it's probably flashed up on anybody who's at work. They've now got red lights going off all around them. So this is a not safe for work episode, largely because of that word. But enshittification, a term coined by Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow is a great tech entrepreneur and tech commentator. He coined this term back in, I think it was about November or December of 2022. And the concept he was describing at that stage is what you see happening on most platforms. Most platforms are really nice to their users until they lock them in. Let's go through the sort of, the life cycle of a platform. You can think of anyone you want: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Amazon, Google, anything like that. Let's just go through the process. The first thing you do is you've got to get users on board. So you've got to bring them on board. You've got to be really nice to them, give them everything they want, cheap, free, as much as you can, to get them locked into your particular platform. Once you've got them locked in, you can then sort of turn your attention to getting your business customers, the people who are going to advertise. So you start to focus on the business. Now you're no longer focused on the consumer at this point. The consumer is now going to start their journey into enshittification, because you're now focused on the business. You're focused on the people who are going to pay for all of this. So you make their life really nice and sweet. You give them good deals. You make sure that you have told them how many of their potential customers are locked into your platform. So you've got them locked in. As soon as you've got them locked in, you can start them on their journey of enshittification, because then you pull the enshittification lever. You've got the consumer locked in. They can't go anywhere because all their friends are on the platform, or they can't get any of the information you provide anywhere else. You then you've got your business customer, your payer, locked in. They can't go anywhere because they need to be able to advertise their services to the end customer. And finally, you can start to ramp up the profits. So you don't give a monkeys about either of the two parties. You're just worried about what you can do to return the money to your investor. So as a CEO of one of these platforms, you now pull that lever as hard as you can. And you tend to find that most of these tech companies tend to do it all together, because if one goes before another, you'll get drift of customers from one platform to another. And so you've got to try to avoid that. So they're all sort of pulling the lever a little bit. They're also trying to make sure that they don't get the customers leave, but at the same time, they don't care so much about the customer's experience. Derek, this is where you and I were sort of talking a little bit earlier. I've just been looking back at some of the research results I got from Google a few years back. And I think Cory Doctorow is onto a real point. A few years ago, the search results you got for Google were quite useful. It was better than anything else around. That's going back a while, but it was good. You got really good results. Over the last several years, what do you find on the first page of Google? Sponsored ads and stuff you want to buy. You don't see the information that you were once seeking. If I go out there and I look for something along the lines of where can I get information out of a particular certificate, what comes up? Sponsored ad about certification deals, ads about where you can buy certificates. What I wanted to know was the information about a particular certification, something that somebody has presented to me and saying, I've got one of these. I want to know if it's useful. But the first page of Google was completely useless. I dug and dug and dug until I actually found the information I was looking for, which is, what does that mean for my business? That's enshittification going forward. It means that the person that actually wants the information is now at the bottom of the tree. You're no longer interesting to the platform. They're not really wanting to supply you with great stuff. They just know you've got nowhere else to go for it. And it's a dreadful business strategy.
Yeah, and it's all happened very quickly as well. Obviously it happens with business customers, but just with normal sort of B2C type customers thinking of Amazon, as we were talking about before. I mean, you search for innocuous things. I've been searching recently for double-sided automotive sticky tape.
As you do.
But the stuff that comes back, I've had stuff recently where I suppose it's hard stuff, that sort of thing, and it's come back with was it almond butter, which is
sticky.
not very good
honest,
for sticking number plates on. But you don't have to go back that far. When you used to search for double-sided tape, and you would get about 30 different examples. And actually, that's the other thing that Cory Doctorow mentions. It's not just that certain people are being sucked in. It's so many people.
Yeah.
So there are 50 or 100 suppliers of double-sided tape, all bidding against each other, all trying to appear at the top of the ads. And the other thing, which isn't part of the enshittification process, but falls along with it, is Amazon and others, other search engines are available, are sucking in all this customer data as well. If you're a marketplace, if you're a supplier to the Amazon marketplace, Amazon is owning all that data, and in some cases taking as much as 50% of the margin that marketplace customers are attempting to make. So it's going wrong at every level.
And the question is, I suppose, Derek, and I mean, we have opinions. We're saying this is not necessarily a good thing, but if you're the CEO of a company and you've been given a lot of money by investors who are now looking at you and going, right, repay me 50, 60, 100-fold, you don't have a lot of other levers to pull, because you can't grow your customer base, because the customer base is going to be finite. You've dragged them along and locked them in. You can't really grow your advertising because once again, you've got your advertisers on board based upon your customer base. So the only thing you can do is now ramp up and start to squeeze both of them in order to sort of repay your investors. And the question has to be, one, is there a better way of doing it? But secondly, are we going to get away from that as a business model? And it is a tough one, because it's not something you can actually say is going to be easy to do.
Well, the first thing before you answer the question, can you do anything about it, is what is the end result? Is if you pursue the enshittification strategy, what happens eventually? What happens when you got to that point where you've screwed your users, you've screwed your business customers, and you're screwing everybody now in order to return money to your shareholders. So the thing is, what can you do after that? Is there a super enshittification strategy, or does the business continue doing that until it dies? Because at some point, surely can't be sustainable. I mean, there must be a point, mustn't there, where where some of the customers drop off, some of the business advertisers drop off, and somehow your revenue and your returns that you're promising to your shareholders.
I see Anthony Shearer has sort of dropped a
He
note.
has. I shall
Comment.
put that comment actually up.
Yeah, no, you see, this is interesting because this, I think, is sort of a bit like your super enshittification point, Derek. Because for me, when you see this sort of thing happen, that in order to be able to sort of once again increase the profits, you start making sure it's the fake good element which actually is the most valuable. It's the lowest possible cost. It's the highest profit, and it almost makes it a no-brainer for a CEO to say, well, allow those to rate. Certainly don't try and stop them, because the last thing you want to do at this stage is to stop those extremely profitable customers selling their goods. But it's effectively crap that sticks, if you excuse the expression. That becomes something then that you will start to see driving customers away. Look, let's take a very real example. Elon Musk bought Twitter. Now, I don't quite get why he thought that he needed to be the arbiter of free speech and buy Twitter, but what he has done has driven customers away. He's driven his business, his customers, his actual advertisers away, because they don't want to be associated with some of the crap that's going on. People are leaving the platform. I was listening recently to a podcast, and at the end they basically went around and sort of asked for everybody's internet sort of, where can they find you on the internet. It used to be that everybody would give their Twitter handle. They'd all say, you can get me on Twitter on such and such. But nowadays it was a mishmash of email, Instagram, TikTok. There was nobody saying Twitter, because they don't want to be associated with it. So that sort of, the enshittification can go too far. It does actually start to sort of see the drive of customers away, and it will eventually start to fail. The point is, what's the peak? Where is the sort of, where can you actually sort of, fine tune it? What do you do? And it seems to me that what most CEOs are doing is they're sort of getting to the peak and then sort of constantly evaluating, how far can I push this before I know I'm going to go too far? How far can I push this before I know I'm going to go too far? And then coming back, putting in enough checks and balances, as Nicholas is saying, to sort of the dodgy products, in order to make it not too bad, but at the same time maximize your profit. There's got to be a better way for me, it's regulation. For me as a consumer rather than a tech CEO on this, I want to see greater regulation. Now, regulation has happened within things like mobile phone industry. You see what the EU has done about waste and standardizing cable. It's moved Apple. But what can they do now with this? And that's a really tough challenge, because it's not easy to be able to put penalties or regulation in place to really force these changes.
Yeah, it's also quite difficult, unless you give everybody a copy of Cory Doctorow's article. It's also quite difficult to actually explain it all to people.
I agree.
And the bit in his article that I really like was his fairground analogy of winning the big teddy bear. Whereas if you go to a fairground, and you see the big teddy bear, you've got to throw some balls at something or hit something, and if you do, you'll win the big teddy bear. Well, it's fixed, and the guys in the fairground will let somebody win the big teddy bear, but nobody else, because it means that person is forced to carry around a big teddy bear for the rest of the day, therefore conning other people into paying to win the big teddy bear, and they won't, because it's fixed. And that's a very simple explanation, but it explains exactly what is going on. Everything's stacked in the fairground man's favor, not in your favor, and you and others are paying to advertise on their behalf.
And think about, once again, I was just saying that the CEO for this occasion, we'll call that the fairground owner. The fairground owner is watching to see if that teddy bear is still going around the fairground, because that's still the advertising one. As soon as that person takes the teddy bear home, he's got to allow somebody else to win the teddy bear, because he doesn't want there to be no teddy bears circulating. He needs somebody
So you need some
wandering
teddy bear.
around. So, you know, it is this element of control. Now, for me, if you look now, you know, we go back to Google. The Google example is really great because they got to the stage where they have started to enshittify, but they're now on the Department of Justice antitrust division radar. And so they're going to start to see that this is going to affect them. So what are they going to do? They're going to have to dial back. They're going to have to dial back because it becomes too uncomfortable. And that's the only way that I can see that is the way of it. It's this scanning mechanism that the business is having to do to see how far they can push it. As soon as the spotlight falls on you, you dial back. And I think that we need more spotlights. We just need more people out there definitely looking at these problems and saying something's got to change.
Yeah. Spotting, effectively, you want to spot the teddy bears, don't you?
You do. What I want to do is I want to have somebody putting teddy bears and making those teddy bears stay on the fairground longer, so that or regulating how many teddy bears have to be on the fairground. So instead of there being one teddy bear wandering around, so that becomes the lever that they pulled so that only one person's ever won it. You turn around and say, at any one time, I want 4 teddy bears on the fairground. And if I see less than 4, I'm going to come after you. So that puts the business owner, the fairground ride, in this case, the tech entrepreneur, in a position where they know that they've got to let more people win because somebody's watching the number of teddy bears wandering around the fairground.
Yeah. But the question, actually, we did ask, or maybe I asked, I don't know. We didn't answer though. What happens? Is enshittification going to lead to death in its own right? I mean, would it lead to death, or as Cory Doctorow says, what we should do with these companies is just torch them, fire them, and kill them. But
Well,
will they kill themselves eventually, though?
that's an interesting one, and I think you know, there's a sense in which the world believes that they are too big to fail, doesn't it? I mean, it's like the banks. We went through this in 2008 when we had the global crisis about this. Politicians, people were basically conned into believing that banks were too big to fail because the economy would collapse. If you go to any politician, any regulator now and say, let these big tech entrepreneurial companies fail, they'll go, but the internet will collapse because they're the things that are driving all of this at the moment. So we can't let them collapse. I'm with I think it was Linda Khan, who's the FTC chair in America, who said they're not too big to fail, they're just too big to care. And I think that we've got to the stage now where we should, as Cory Doctorow say, allow something to go badly wrong. We should actually deliberately sort of squeeze this enshittification to the point where the balance is restored, so that as a consumer of this stuff, I get something back from it, and we don't worry too much about the consequences, because it's a self-leveling system. Something will fill the gap. If one of these goes under, you can bet your bottom dollar there are 16 other entrepreneurs who are just waiting to fill it with something better, but they've not been given the chance to fill the gap. I know that because I've been working with some of them. That's some of the stuff that you and I do. We work with people that want the break, but they can't get it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. We're almost getting towards the end of our time, but I was just thinking that the argument. Well, I hate to keep on mentioning Amazon, but the argument, well, certainly it happens a lot in Sheffield, but it happens a lot in other local economies as well. People say that Amazon's killed all the small businesses. The reason initially why Amazon killed the small businesses was because the small businesses were, to be honest, crap. It's nice to have small businesses on the high street, but if the stuff's too expensive, you don't deliver it, and there's a whole load of because Amazon stuff is cheaper. That's them squeezing people as part of enshittification. But stuff gets delivered and make it very convenient. But now you've got a whole load more small businesses who are a bit more savvy than the older small businesses. and who could easily create an offering, whether it's far superior in terms of quality, in terms of price, in terms of delivery. I mean, for instance, in Sheffield, there's a big movement with these electric cargo bikes. Now, and we have plenty of bakers, coffee grinders, all sorts. Now, they can't put stuff in the mail or with couriers because it would just cost too much. But if somebody, for instance, plugged that into the cargo bike delivery system, and you were prepared to wait a couple of days for your coffee, not maybe for your bread, but for your coffee, then Amazon couldn't compete with that, no matter how hard they tried. And it's that sort of working out what strategy other than IT people can actually employ to defeat these people, or at least compete with them rather than not defeat them.
Let's end on a positive note. I'm very well reminded of the fact that a very big private equity company called KKR about, was it 5 years ago, bought, maybe a bit longer than 5 years ago, bought Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And Toys R Us failed miserably. And I think it was Jeff Bezos who, at an event or something along those lines, was speaking to one of the main partners at KKR, and basically said, "I can't believe you bought Toys R Us. I killed the toy business 5 years before you bought them because Amazon is just so dominant." Now, my counter to that is you've still got some really, really successful toy shops out there, places like the Entertainer.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're focused on their customer. They focus on what the value they can bring, and it's not about can you shift it at highest margin.
No.
It's about can you bring joy back to the customer. A bit like your example of the electric bike around town. What does this mean? I said this to somebody I was working with recently who rang me and sort of wanted to talk to me about whether or not they should be pulling this lever to growth or that lever. And I said to them, have you made your product as fantastic for your customer as you can yet? And their answer was, I don't know. And I went, until you can say yes, 110%, I have no doubts about that. Don't bother to ask about any other lever. Make your product brilliant. Then we'll talk about how you commercialize to the extent that you get that. So focus on your customer.
Yeah. And for those people who are still watching, Nicholas has kindly given us an article all about Smith's Toys. And other good toy shops, but yes,
Are
they're
available.
are available. But that just reminds me. I mean, toys are a real case in point, and it's also quite interesting. Amazon is focusing with toys to some extent on the parents, and the thing that's very key is a lot of these toy shops focusing on the real customers, which are the children. And if you do that, you can be very, very clever. A colleague of mine, I'd love to claim credit for it, but I've seen him with these photographs of a toy shop in Rome, I think it was, and they have a big archway, and all the parents go in. There's a little archway by the side where the children go in. The children actually have their own entrance to the toy shop, and if you make a place feel that special, or you put enough. I mean, another one of his examples was an ice cream place where you pay like a couple of quid for an ordinary ice cream, and a posh ice cream that looks like a flower you pay £7, £8, £9 for. What's the difference? The one that looks like a flower is handcrafted. The person actually makes it in front of you. Now, not everybody will want one, but people will pay for that added value, that joy, that surprise, whatever. And people will pay for that. And you cannot do that on any of these platforms.
And I think the key to the slide of enshittification, I'm convinced, is the fact that you value your customer. And that really is the secret to innovation. the value of the customer, the value of your customer to your business. If you hold them in high regard, if you're working for their benefit, you'll always end up better off.
Indeed. So yeah, to anybody who's got very depressed by not depressed, but has been thinking, or Amazon, or whatever. No, there are things that can be done. There are plenty of things that can be done, and we'd love to help them do it, wouldn't we?
Absolutely would.
But yeah, it's very, very easy to do. So there we go. Enshittification as a business strategy or not. And thanks to Nicholas for contributing quite a bit. And we'll be back again. And I know the date this time.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's excellent.
It is. It's June the 14th. Because
I shall make a note in my diary to be away that day, Derek.
Yeah, you do that, and I'll just talk to myself with a few other people listening in. It's Friday, June the 14th, 12:30 p.m. Be there or be square. We should be there.
We should be there.
So yeah, indeed. So it is goodbye from me, and it's
goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. We'll see you on June the 14th. Bye for now.